Howdy ho there, YouTube. Trying to put together a video of some rattling that I did back on November 9th. And happened to be one of those days that I just felt like it was going to be good. And it was. I can just tell you guys that I have a really good success rattling late October, early November, when a cool front comes in, if it's drizzling rain. Obviously, I think the bucks are out. They're I don't know, they're cruising, looking for love. And I also think they're trying to freshen things up. They're just trying to keep things fresh. And so I've had really, really good success rattling in those conditions. And so when I look at the forecast and see something like that coming, I try to open my schedule up so that I can get out and spend time putting the horns together. This particular day, I'd seen it coming about a week prior, and I was able to get out and just have a great time. So I live in a county where deer has to be at minimum of 13 inches wide. And then I was hunting on private ground, and so the ranch has some standards that they want us to uphold as well. And they give me a pretty long leash to come out and hunt out there unguided, and they trust me to make good decisions. And so I go out of my way to try to do that. So there was one buck at the end. I didn't even get footage of him. As I turned the phone off to try to reposition, he darted off, and I never get an opportunity to get footage of him. And he was probably one that I would have shot given the opportunity, but just did not get the opportunity. Really aggressive with these sessions. I mean, I banged the horns hard, but I wasn't kicking around and banging brush, which sometimes I'll get very animated. But the area here that I was hunting in is mostly mesquite flats. It's very open. And so I'm very visible to the animals coming in. And so I try to keep my movement a little more subdued. Obviously, my head's on a swivel, so I'm moving a lot. I'm moving the horns a lot, but I'm trying to keep my movement, my body movement minimal. But sometimes I get very, very active. And obviously I'm stomping my feet where I'm sitting to try to emulate the sound of hooves beating the ground. I like to use a barrier. See, most of these sessions I was just going a fence line. The wind was blowing straight behind me to the fence line. Of course, those are the neighbors. I can't hunt on them, but anything that would come off of us would have to cross the fence for it to get downwind of me. And so I was trying to put that fence to my advantage. As it turns out, everything kept coming off of the neighbors and coming over to me. But either way, I like to try to use a barrier. I like to try to put a fence line behind me, a river, a creek. A field is really great, because if they're going to have to wind you to go out in that field, they're going to give themselves up. So I try to do something like that if at all possible. Again, this particular day, I was thinking about the property, thinking about the lay of the land, thinking about the wind direction. And so I set myself up to kind of use that fence as a barrier. So I encourage you to think about those things as you're setting yourself up, because a lot of times they're going to want to come downwind. And who are these two deer up here fighting in my neighborhood? I want to go check out and see who it is before I go rushing up in there, because it might be old Hank, and Hank might kick my butt if I go up in there. So I'm going to go sniff it, check it. And that's the gist of it. I'd sat my grunt tube down at one point and misplaced it in this hunt, and I did not catch it on film, but there was that last deer as he was bailing out. I burped at him. I'd left my phone sitting next to my chair. I didn't have anything to film with, a GoPro, and the deer was 80 yards away at this point, and I burped and turned him around. He come a couple of steps back and then recognized me because I was busted. I was wide open, seen me and turned and burned. But I've used that before in the past. I've been out rattling and not have a grunt tube with me. And as the deer start to move, in fact, my daughter was with me about 5 years ago. We were out bow hunting, and they were leaving. Burped. It sounded like a grunt. Turned them around, they came back, and I was able to harvest one of those two bucks. Actually, a pretty nice buck, probably 125-inch Texas whitetail in here in that area. That's not a bad deer. It's not a giant, but with an archery, rattling, sitting on the ground, we'll take it all day. Anyway, I like to call. I like to rattle. I love rattling whitetail. I love rattling elk. I like putting horns together and hunting this way. So let's go check out how that went there on November 9th. Session number 1. Wind is blowing this way. Face. Property line right behind me. 15 yards. yourself in the fingers with the tips. Like this. Seems to be working today. Really young deer. Really young deer. I just burped. We'll sit here just a couple more minutes and see if something else shows up, but I'm going to move and do a lot of rattles today, so this will be session number 2. I just bumped a buck and a doe as I was walking in. Not a very big buck, but a buck from session number 3. Neighbors on the cross the fence just cruised behind us side by side. But I still don't want to blow this area out. They were 150 yards over there. So I'm going to hit this area real quick before we just blow through it. Huge field, 100 yards over there. The neighbors just came through over here. I just came from this way. Pretty narrowed down to right out here in front of me. Still trying to keep my head on a swivel for just in case, but should be out here. Be a short set. He's over here about 50 yards. He just crossed the fence, went back across to the other property. Well, we're at session 3. And I almost didn't do that session. he came from where I didn't expect him. So, all right, we're going to move on, head up to the next session. Session 4. I think this is number 5. It's a good deer, though. He's got potential. He's wide. Looked like he was probably 15, 16 wide. They're coming off the neighbor every time. Well, just like that, man, it was a beautiful, beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I like getting out of the elements and experiencing days like that. And sometimes you got to get out in the elements to experience that. Sometimes you got to pay your dues. And yeah, of course, I've got rain gear, and so it's not that big of a deal to just get out there and enjoy it just like that. And I've shared this story before, but I'm going to share it again. That last session, I had the 2 bucks come in, and it made me think it's been on my heart ever since those $2 came in. There's a story that I've shared on a video a year or so ago, and I entitled it $2. And I want to share that story again. It just doesn't get old from my perspective. I went to Peru a few years ago on a mission trip, and I met a young lady there, 17 years old, from Australia. Her name was Hannah Robinson, and cut right to the chase. Hannah came to me as we were leaving to fly out of Jauja back to Lima, and it's a little short flight. And when we landed in Lima, she had to change airlines to start her flight home back to Australia. And she said, I've got 1 hour from the time we land in Lima to make my connection. And I'll abbreviate that as well. Did not make it in time. And she asked me to help her, and we just did not make it in time. This particular mission trip, there was a lot of missionaries in Peru. If you're thinking about shutting the phone off or shutting this video off, I'm challenging you right now. Stop. Don't shut it off. Stick with me for just 2 more minutes here. There was a lot of missionaries that were catching flights. This was a big mission trip from people all over the world came and focused on Peru for a week. And she did not make her connection. And so they told us at the ticket window there, you got to buy another ticket. You're late. You missed it by a minute and you are late. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to buy another ticket. It's going to be between $900 and $1,500. And Hannah was devastated, absolutely devastated. And if I'm honest, so was I, because she put her faith in me to help her make this connection, and I felt like I dropped the ball. But I'm not a guy that just could pull out a credit card and fix the situation. So the people that brought all of the missionaries to Peru had a room rented across the street. They had a little lounge area for us to sit and wait for connection flights out of Lima. They had soft drinks and sandwiches and stuff like that. So took Hannah across the street. We got into that room, and there was probably 40 or 50 people sitting around, and I just told them, hey, we've missed a flight here, and this young lady's trying to get back to Australia. She's 17 years old. She has worked all summer, saved her money to come and be on this mission trip, and she missed her flight, and they're saying $900 to $1,500. I set a box in the middle of the floor and said, man, if you can help, please do. Put some worship music on and just started to pray. And people started getting up and coming and putting money in the box, in the little cardboard box. And within about 10 minutes or so, the box was getting pretty full. Had no idea how much money was in it, but it was getting pretty full. One young man, probably 10, 12 years old, came over to me and he said, sir, he said, I've only got $2. Would it be all right if I put that in the box? And I said, absolutely, young man. And so he put the $2 in the box, and there was a flight that we were going to try to get her on, but we were cutting short on time. And so we grabbed the box and we ran across the road, me and Hannah and another young man, and I'm talking to the lady at the ticket window, and Hannah and the young man are down on the floor counting out the money. We don't have any idea how much we've got. So the lady at the ticket window, she's doing her stuff, typing in, trying to find this and find that. And she slides a ticket across the counter to me, and I pick it up and look at it, and they're still counting. And so I'm just kind of waiting. And they stand up, they get it all counted, and they said, we've got $1,154. Well, the price of the ticket was $1,154. I began to weep. I told everybody what had just happened. Hannah and the young man began to weep. And the lady at the ticket window didn't speak English. And so the young man that was with us was a Spanish speaker. And so I had him explain to the lady behind the ticket window what had just happened. She began to weep. It was beautiful. We had a God moment. I think back, though, why I entitled this $2. I think back about the young man that said, all I got is $2. Would it be okay? And I think about a lot of times, for myself included, that sometimes I just don't feel like what I have is adequate. It just seems too minuscule to even offer. My 2 cents is of no value to this situation. But in that situation, it was the $2 that brought us up to the balance. And I challenge you to think about what you have to offer, because sometimes your 2 cents is what's going to bring it up to the balance so that it'll be full and complete and take care of business. So, man, I hope this challenges you to think about what maybe God has placed in you and the abilities that he has placed in you. And it might seem so minuscule to some of the other people that are so gifted and so talented and they've got so much. But your 2 cents, that $2 that that young man put in, is what brought that $1,152 up to the balance that we needed of $1,154. So, man, it was a blessed a blessed thing to get to witness. And I'm a blessed guy. I get to see a lot of those kind of things, and get to share them with you. And I've shared this one before, and I'll probably share it again simply because it was such a beautiful thing to get to witness. Man, I hope you enjoyed getting to go out and see these bucks coming around and giving me a hard time out there and sizing me up and looking me up and down. And I don't know, beautiful time, beautiful time. Here's what I've got going on. I'm not trying to be a superstar on YouTube, and most of my videos get 50 to 100 views. I get very little comments, very little likes, but I'm asking people to subscribe. It kind of helps the algorithm. I don't understand all the fancy terminology, but if you subscribe, if you like, if you comment, if you share, it gets these videos out to more people. And I believe that we're going to make an impact on people for the glory of God by getting this thing out to more people. So please do those things. Otherwise, I hope you have a blessed time. It is Thanksgiving tomorrow, so I'm fixing to go in and start sniffing some pies and turkey and all that kind of stuff, and try to get this thing put together and see if we can get it posted tomorrow morning. So you guys have a blessed one. Until next time.